You have made it to week 13, and with that, well, nothing. But week 13, really, with the post-war novelists and fiction writers, just really we get to the point where American literature, to my mind, starts to explode. There are so many amazing writers who we don't have time to read. And for all the males in the class, this is also a time when macho comes to the fore. And because we don't have much use for those women, in this period of time. This is the time period that's portrayed in Mad Men and other movies of the era and about the era. And it was a very male-dominated society. It was a very male-dominated time, more so probably than a lot of times before that. Coming out of World War II, it was the guys got it done. Forget about Rosie the Riveter. Who cares about her? Let's move on. I want to take a moment to share with you something that's from a writer we're not going to read, Joseph Heller, who in his famous, monumentally best-selling novel, Catch-22, wrote about his experience, a fictionalized version of his experience as a bomber pilot during World War II. He was basically, bomber pilots, they're flying in these aircraft over Europe, over Germany mostly, and people are shooting at them. And I've never had that experience, but I've got to think that having people shoot at you while you're 20,000 feet in the air is probably an unpleasant experience, and you'd want to stop doing it. But so how did the Air Force keep people from getting out of flying? Well, there was Catch-22. Here's why. There was only one way to get out, and that was if you were crazy. So here we go. There was only one catch, and that was Catch-22, which specified that a concern for one's safety in the face of dangers that were real and immediate was the process of a rational mind, or was crazy and could be grounded. All he had to do was ask, and as soon as he did, he would no longer be crazy and would have to fly more missions, or would be crazy to fly more missions and sane if he didn't. But if he was sane, he had to fly them. If he flew them, he was crazy and didn't have to. But if he didn't have to, he was sane and had to. Yossarian was moved very deeply by the absolute simplicity of this clause of Catch-22 and let out a respectful whistle. That's some catch, that Catch-22, he observed. It's the best there is, Doc Danica agreed. That's the famous formulation of Catch-22. Doesn't do justice to the whole book, but it's a pretty good little sample. Had to share that because well, I guess you could ignore Joseph Heller, but there are so many others. I've got a list. I'm going to read my list. Okay, there's Joseph Heller. I mentioned him already. Norman Mailer, J.D. Salinger, Catcher in the Rye fame, John Updike. There were some women we can give them a little shout out. Carson McCullers, Flannery O'Connor, Eudora Welty, Southerners, all three. And the what was I supposed to say? Oh yeah, Flannery O'Connor. It grieves me to leave Flannery O'Connor out because to my mind, Flannery O'Connor is probably the best short story writer who's ever breathed. I mean, I find her amazing. Even her popular work is amazing. Her less popular work is still pretty darn good. One other writer I want to mention is from a little bit farther east than any of the others. That is Vladimir Nabokov. Nabokov was a Russian who immigrated fairly young to the United States, but he could write fluently in Russian, in French, and in English. And his novel Lolita is considered by many people one of the very finest pieces of writing ever done. I mean, if you get a list of the 100 best novels, very decent chance Lolita is going to land on that. All of these came out of this period, and there are a lot more writers, including the ones we're going to read for today, and some others I'm just forgetting. So, let's say for today, you know what I mean, this week. So we go on. We have this broadening of who is sort of taken seriously. Not so much the women at this point. The women have had a pretty decent time, never quite at equality, but they've had their voice. Willa Cather was pretty big stuff. But this is a down period for women as writers in America. They're going to come back with a vengeance down the road, so don't worry, it's okay. But Jewish writers start to emerge. Black writers start to become more mainstreamed, and eventually we're going to hear Asian and Hispanic and other voices start to come out more and more, and things are just going to diversify greatly. So it's a rich time to be reading American literature, right? So you get at it, because there's a pretty good chunk of pages to read, but I think you'll find it not terribly hard reading, just a good bit of it. So hopefully you'll enjoy it, and I will talk to you next week.